Hello and welcome to Category Leaders. Today we have with us Shay Levi, the co-founder and CEO of Unframe. Shay, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So, as we get started, I'd love to hear more about your journey. You are a second-time founder, previously founded NoName Security and sold it for $500 million to Acme. I'd love to hear what led you to create Unframe today.
Sure. So yeah, I'll give you a short intro about myself, maybe really quick.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So yeah, started my professional career in the intelligence unit, various R&D, cybersecurity, research roles. Then I worked for a few companies. A known one would be Facebook. I worked for Facebook for a bit of time. After Facebook, I had a company profitable from day one with no investors. Then I had NoName Security, which was doing API security. And as you said, after 4 years, we got acquired by Akamai for $500 million. And then I started Unframe. To your question, I started Unframe because I really felt the need for a company doing exactly what we're doing. And before we go into that, I'll just say I was deep in NoName and doing API security in the cybersecurity space. And I thought always there's going to be a company trying to do that, and I'm just going to invest in it. That was my original thesis. But as it didn't happen, it didn't happen, it didn't happen. And as an entrepreneur, you get to that point saying, all right, that's it. I'm going to be the one doing it. And so that's how it started. And it started with the thesis saying there's this AI technology that came into the world. Businesses are going to want to adopt it to make real impact inside their organization, inside their enterprise. And someone has to bridge the gap between the tech capability and the actual impact that it makes. Initially, there were few initial directions that popped up, whether AGI is going to come and do all that, and then it didn't happen. SaaS companies are going to add AI features, and that's how it's going to get resolved. And that didn't happen. Like, they did add AI features, but that's not where the impact is. And I really felt that there's a need for someone doing like a tailored approach where you come in, a use case pops up, and you solve it end to end. Now, obviously, organizations can try and build solutions themselves, but it takes long. It can take them 6, 7, 8 months. They're limited in capacity on how much they can do that. And we thought if we had a strong platform, which we can deep dive into in a bit, if we had a strong platform that allows us to do it very quickly, and we're literally talking in a few days, that's the time frame Unframe works, in which we can deliver a full-blown solution to a use case, then it's going to be very appealing. And we'll put our money where our mouth is, saying we're going to give you the solution, and you get to use it, you get to try it, and you get to choose if you want to license it only at the end of it. So all the risk element of getting hooked into a project or something like that, all that goes away. And yeah, that's basically what Unframe does. We come in, we talk with some enterprise. They're like, yes, we want to do stuff with AI. We're like, let us help you achieve that. And we come back 3, 4, 5 days later with the solution and go ahead, try it.
So it's a really interesting model. Tell me more about the challenges typically that the industry is seeing. I think that is around 95% of the enterprises that try to implement AI fail. So what are they seeing? Also the time scale, you mentioned you can do it in a few days. So what are they typically seeing if they're not with Unframe?
Yeah, sure. The 95% I think is more related to the quick DIY motion that happened originally. Like, people said, all right, we'll enable anyone in the org to create an agent and their own digital twin, and everything's going to be agents, and it's going to take everyone a day or two, and it's going to work. And the DIY, do it yourself inside enterprises, that didn't work so well. Like, people created hundreds of agents that weren't really accurate, weren't really beneficial, and they got deprecated very quickly. And so you ended up with a lot of garbage. That's the 95%. And if you want to create a real valuable solution, you still need to think about what you're trying to solve for, think about the pain points, do an actual product work. And for organizations that are not necessarily, that aren't Unframed, that aren't doing it for a platform play, trying to serve the industry, every single solution that they're going to build is going to take them 6, 7, 8 months. Now, an enterprise can invest those 6, 7, 8 months, and they're going to get an outcome that they're happy with. That's the 5% that are, but there's a limited capacity. You have hundreds of use cases. You can target 3 that way. Unframe comes in and say, okay, we'll look at it in a more horizontal way, saying all those different use cases require the same building blocks. It's not going to be easy to create those building blocks. It's very hard. It's very challenging, but we think it's possible. So how about we go and try and do that? And we'll package it all into a platform, and that's going to be the tech aspect of it. The second aspect of it has to be the product aspect. So they're going to come in and say, this is the use case I want to solve for. You have to deep dive and really convert it into a real solution. I can't give you a title of I have supply chain risk. And then you have to ask some smart questions. You have to do the product process also very effectively within that same time frame, which is something that Unframe knows to do very well, both in verticals we have worked with before, and we almost worked in any vertical, and even new ones. We already know how to collect that experience and immediately apply it to get a valuable solution. So with these two legs, the tech and the product, is how you get a valuable solution.
How are you guys making that adaptation from industry to industry, use case, verticals, and especially so quickly, right? If a typical one can take 6 to 8 months and you guys are just doing within a few days. And also, I think the model is very unique. I haven't seen many companies sort of saying, here, we'll build it out, come try, connect your data, especially at the enterprise level. So how do you do it?
Yeah, no, great question. On the tech front, I always said that to build a valuable platform, you have to do it while engaging with customers. It's not like we sat in the garage and started to build a platform. It's just we immediately started meeting the market, building those building blocks. And the metaphor we had, the story about AWS. AWS was so valuable because they first hosted Amazon. Their first job was to host Amazon. Once they hosted Amazon, they were like, okay, this can apply to everyone. And it's the same concept that we thought. Once we engage with enough customers that have real use cases and will have this idea in mind that it's going to serve others, that's how it's going to create a valuable platform. So the only way to do that was, I don't know, a year, more than a year of engaging with real use cases, working very hard to solve them and build those building blocks that are then available for the future ones. So that's on the tech side. On the product side, the idea was initially we weren't very clear there. We were messy. We were like, okay, all solutions should look the same. And we very quickly understood that there's few key elements of like how a user expects to engage with AI. So for example, now it's becoming more and more clear that chat is not the ideal interface for most things you want to do with AI. It's almost like a terminal. So that's exactly it. It depends on the use case, right? So for example, it wouldn't surprise you that if you're working on, I don't know, real estate, then you need a map. A map is your comfortable way to engage with something. And if you're working with, I don't know, data analysis, then the main interface is probably the dashboard and so it's like there's different elements and different ways of engagements that make it very important for the workflow or the solution to be appealing and interesting for the other side to use. So it's both of those things that kind of fit together. And I think what Unframe knows to do pretty well, and initially people were skeptical, is to use that accumulated experience for future engagements. How are you going to get in a new industry that you haven't worked in before and starting to pick up? Turns out if you have this know-how already, if you already did it 3 or 4 times in the past, you already have this momentum and already have the know-how of how to engage with new ones.
Okay. And when you were starting off, was there a specific use case that you guys went to? I know you said you wanted to try as many things as you can, but was there a specific one in there that you were more focused on?
Yeah. So we did try initially. We came up with use cases ourselves and tried to engage with customers, and was not interesting at all. No one wanted the use cases that we thought of. It was the interesting thing was the use cases that they had in mind that we had to tap into. And sometimes we were shell shocked because you initially hear about a use case from a world you know nothing about. You're like, I don't know what they just said. But you very quickly realize that the world is somewhat different, because even if it used to be hard to collect information, to understand a concept you can't understand. You had to Google. Now the chat is making it easier, right? I can give you a very complicated process and you give it to the chat and say, all right, let's start to dive in. Let's start to dissect it. And so it's much more possible to do that today. And so that's what actually worked. We started engaging on use cases of worlds and areas we didn't know before. Something that everyone scared us was not possible. No one can build a company that way. Turns out you can.
Okay. Tell me more about, you mentioned at the beginning, you chose this because, you wanted to invest and you knew that someone was eventually going to do it. Being a second-time founder in cyber, or your first time was in cyber, now the second time is out of cyber, right. Talk about that change. It's typically easiest being, especially here in Israel, being the cyber nation, right? Not just a startup nation, to have a successful exit and then quickly go and be a second-time founder there. How was the process there?
It was very difficult, surprisingly, because Israel is, as you said, it's a very strong cybersecurity ecosystem. It was almost expected that I have to do another cyber, like I have to. It doesn't matter the idea.
You're not allowed to do otherwise.
Yeah, they'll give you, I'll just need to sign at the bottom. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the idea. go at it.
The easy way out.
Yeah, but I was like, no, I really think this is the big thing. Like someone has to do this big thing. By the way, I wouldn't recommend that what we did in Unframe, or the idea of Unframe, the thesis around it, I wouldn't do it as a first timer. The execution risk is too high. The market risk is too high. I understand why VCs thought it's a risky play. I don't doubt it. And it is. To this day, I think there's a lot of challenges and execution challenges, and Unframe really needs it's a high bar to succeed. I wouldn't do it as a first timer, but as a second timer, I thought the reward that this can have, the impact that this can have is massive. And this is why I was so interested in it, because I had the feeling that AI is going to it's going to hit the wall. And we felt it with GPT-5. Now it's going to take some time until we make the next leap. And someone is going to have to bridge that gap. And I thought the tailored approach is going to be the way to do it. And so that all of those things set in my mind. And yeah, it was challenging because when I went and met with VCs back in 2024, first of all, there wasn't a lot of AI in Israel back in the beginning of 2024, very few. I heard a lot of, it's a valley play. It's go to the valley and do it there. That's what you should do. And I don't know, it wasn't in the ecosystem, and the world was still in a lot of question marks. As I told you before, people said maybe the SaaS vendors will just add AI and that's how this market's going to end. And I was like, no, I don't think so. But it was hard. Everything had to convince, had to work, and yeah, it wasn't simple. I would tell you, it did help that I'm a second timer. Without being a second timer, there was no chance whatsoever this would ever be that I would be able to raise. No way. Yeah, it was a battle, but I really believed in it. So much so, as I told you, I wanted to potentially invest in a company trying to do it, but there was just none. And so I had to do it.
Tell me, so Unframe, about 2 years been around. What are some of the achievements or the milestones that you're extremely proud of, what you guys have been able to, and something new, a lot of failures up until this point in the industry? What are some of the things that you guys have been able to accomplish?
So look, we're working with a lot of enterprises across a lot of verticals. Almost all enterprises we engage with do more and more work with us very fast. Like they enjoy the Unframe model and they're very impressed. Like the most rewarding part is when we come back 5, 6 days later, a week later, and they're like, wow, we didn't think this was real. Like it sounded too good to be true, but we gave it a shot. And now you guys came back with a solution. That's the most rewarding part. And then it's starting to accelerate. Like they always come and say, all right, let's target these 4 use cases now. Let's do this, let's do that. And the art of the possible becomes, and Unframe is very fair as well. We charge per solution per year. It includes all maintenance, support, feature requests, troubleshooting. And so it's very alleviating from them. It's like, you came with a cure. So they're going at it. And that's the rewarding part. You become something that is really useful for them, really makes an impact. And I think that's the thing that I'm most excited about. A company can be many things, but I think the key thing is to provide value to your customers. And so if we do that, then I think and we do a lot of it by now. That's the most exciting. But as you said, it wasn't smooth sailing. There was a lot of learnings. There was a lot of, there was every front you look at, from R&D and development and product and sales and marketing and anything. It was all one challenging route. But I'm happy I think we are past the static friction and we're deep in the kinetic friction. So that's easier now. Nice.
You mentioned a few times the state of AI. There was a lot of anticipation that probably now we'd be at AGI, and then we saw ChatGPT 5 come out, and a lot of disappointment and understanding that we have ways more to go. So forward looking, where are we? AI specifically, also enterprise level, and where do you guys see Unframe years forward playing?
Yeah. So my take on AI is that, to make the next breakthrough, there will need to be research advancement. And research takes its own time. And it's not it's hard to tell. You don't know if it's going to happen next year or 5 years or 10 years from now. Research has its own timeline and things happen when they happen. But I think if we focus on what we currently know, given the current tech, we already see how much impact it can have. So let's close that gap. Let's work on something that is fully within our control. Like it is possible. No research breakthrough is needed. Who's going to do that? And that's what I want Unframe to be doing. I want to be able to, everyone says AI is going to change the world. I don't think we need another research leap to do that. I think with what we have, let's already do that. And so that's what I think the focus of Unframe is going to be. And I think that's going to be the exciting part. And I think Unframe, with NoName, we did API security. And the idea was to give API security to more and more companies. I think Unframe is different in the sense that, the more, once we start engaging with a single company, just the impact we can have within that one company is enormous. And so I generally think that by the beginning of next year, Unframe will have more business that it can process. I think we'll actually have to push back on some companies saying, hey, wait, sorry, go somewhere else.
Is that because you can do several projects within a company? It starts as a landing point. You're doing one platform or interface that they're looking for, and then you can just keep on expanding into the implementations of AI?
Yes, because yeah, first of all, yes, and second of all, all our solutions run on like a shared layer we call a knowledge fabric within an org, and so it makes it even easier to just spin up another one. So even within those few days, we have accelerators that make them even shorter. And so to business users or to potential enterprises, they're like, okay, why don't we do those 10 use cases all at once? Can we just do that? And we're like, sure. Why don't we do that? And it's always the same model. You get the solution, use it, see if it works. If it does, move on to licensing. It's always a few days of engagement. There's no forward deployed engineers. That's a new concept that you probably heard of. It's quite heavy. You need to bring employees into your org and stuff like that. We don't do that. So everything is very easy, smooth sailing. I honestly think it's the easiest way to adopt AI from the perspective of an enterprise. And I think this is why we're having the success we're having.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds very easy and like a no-brainer, right? Like where is the friction? Because you're removing it. It's come, try, play with the Lego that we have here, see what sense, and then we can take it forward.
Yeah, just get the solutions, see if you like it.
Nice. Tell me a little bit more about what you guys are doing for sales. Is it marketing? Is it inbound sales? What's driving the growth behind Unframe?
Yeah, so it's very interesting. It's actually divided pretty well. There's not one vertical that works the best, and it's really nice to see. It's not in NoName there were certain verticals that work better than the others, and here you have the natural slicing of like outbound, inbound, events. It's like almost evenly spread. And so that's that. It's hard for me to say, hey, we're going to double down on that. I think we just increase the general pie. Like the amount of money we put into that machine, that's the only thing we need to increase. There's not, okay, let's double down on outbound. Let's double down. And so that's also nice to see. I do hope inbound, everyone says inbound, yeah, all right, if inbound grows, I'll be happy. But it's already quite well. But so far, the pie is pretty even. Like every angle that can potentially, referrals, every angle that can potentially bring customers is evenly divided.
Awesome. So as we look to wrap up, a few more questions. You're an accomplished second-time founder, Shay. You've shared a lot of knowledge here. You've sold your company, and hopefully Unframe is on its way to be even more successful than the last. What is some advice that you'd give to some of our listeners who are aspiring to innovate in their own field, start their own thing? Love to hear.
Interesting question. So I think there are many angles we can take it. I'll take a few angles that are common and I think more relevant to the masses. So a lot of times you meet founders that don't know where to start, right? Someone has an idea, how do you start? And so first of all, you need a team, right? You can't be alone, but let's say you have the team, where do you start? I think a good place to start is to talk to entrepreneurs that either sold companies or started their own company and are already ongoing. That will already give you like meaning the industry, and existing founders or one that exited are very happy to talk to new ones. And so it's not, don't be shy, just reach out to whoever and talk to them and see the feedback that you're getting. And that's how you're going to get started. So that's point number one. Point number two that I found really useful, and again, I'm taking wide tips because I think that's relevant to the masses, is I think the product that you're working on initially as a team to see is basically the raising deck, right? Because you're going to want to raise your seed round. As you're going to work on the deck that you're going to present to VCs, that's going to already show you if the team you're working with is the right team for you, if you're making progress as a team. That's your initial product, is that deck that you are then going to VCs with. And I think to people who aren't necessarily already in the industry, to people in the industry, it's very clear. So I'm not talking to the existing entrepreneurs. I'm talking to the new ones, aspiring ones. Work on the deck with your team by engaging with existing founders, entrepreneurs, etc. And that's going to give you the initial understanding if the problem you're working on is interesting, how the market looks like, because you're going to work on that deck. And I think that's the starting point. So that's my tip to everyone that asks me, how do you start a company? Where do I even go? So this is where you go.
Awesome. Shay, This has been really interesting. I think Unframe is on its way to greatness. When I was looking at it before, even before our conversation, it looks like a very big need, someone that everyone is trying to deal with. And it looks like you guys are already on a very good path, have amazing investors behind you and a great team. Looking forward to following your journey. Where can anyone who's looking to learn more about you and Unframe find you guys?
It's Unframe.ai, and I'm also on LinkedIn. You can just drop me a message, add me on LinkedIn, but Unframe.ai is our website, and you can find everything there.
Awesome. Thank you, Shay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.